The second official trailer of Jurassic World Rebirth has just been released, and with it are new scenes and shots of the Dystotus Rex, also a prolonged teaser of the river raft scene featuring the swimming T-Rex, new shots of the Titanosaurus, a herd of them, the Mosasaurus, the Quetzalcoatlus, and also finally, the official reveal of the Mutadons. And what are they exactly? Well, here in this video we will analyze all the new scenes of this new mutant and maybe a hybrid dinosaur, and we will try to estimate its size, how it was made, whether or not it is a hybrid or a mutant, and then muse on whether this movie will be the first to not feature velociraptors in prolonged scenes, even though they were teased in the toy lines. Let's get to it. So around the 33-second mark, we see a failed experiment, a grotesque specimen of a fully grown and dead creature that seems to have two heads that possess beaks but with teeth, which looks like that of a draconic wyvern. It also has what looks like multiple arms, two with leathery wings and a couple more in the middle of the chest. On the containment unit outside of it was written the name of the creature, Mutadon, and the letter R, which might mean that this was one of many failed experiments, with the suffix R pointing towards maybe a failed version that wasn't viable to live outside of containment and had to be in life support or force-fed in order to live and to be able to be studied. Just as a side note to this, we can tell you from a recently released article in Empire that describes the lab scenes which featured the D-Rex would be around 10 years in the past. And since the main movie would be set 5 years after the event of Dominion, this means that the D-Rex containment breach and the failed experiments on the Mutadons, or maybe their failed creations, would have likely been in the year 2017, and therefore not as far back as we originally thought or were led to believe. Now 1 minute and 52 seconds into the second trailer, we are finally shown this new creature, which looks part raptor and part pterosaur. Yep, this is a living specimen of that Mutadon, which means that at least one of them, and probably more, was successfully created, or at least one of them were created and it reproduced. The Mutadon here that we see attacking the survivors in that gas station is about the size of a velociraptor, probably a bit bigger, just a tiny bit, measuring about maybe 15 to 16 feet long and standing about 5 to 6 feet tall. The successful specimen, which is pale cream in coloration with dark greenish stripes, has only one head, not like the failed experiment with two heads, and it has two arms, unlike the four arms of the failed experiment. But these two arms have leathery wings, which suggests that it may be capable of gliding or just limited flight. Its legs are seen to be long and thin, like that of an emu, but a bit muscular, and the legs end in deadly sharp claws, including a curved sickle claw that is normally seen in raptors. Now going over to the face, it is no doubt better looking than me for a start. I mean, it is pretty decent. It is reptilian and actually a fresh look as compared to the really grotesque face of the D-Rex. Its head strongly resembles that of a velociraptor but with some noticeable differences, looking more like a wyvern, with an angular shape, a narrow snout with sharp teeth and a beak-like tip if you look carefully. The neck seems a bit funny though. It is of medium length, not too long or too short, which maybe allows it for fast, dangerous head movements during attacks. Hanging slightly from the neck is a loose flap of skin, which makes it appear, I'll say, older looking, but also having a realistic vibe. Oh, and yeah, when you think about it, doesn't this Mutadon look somewhat similar to the face of Vagar, especially with the flabby skin on the neck? Anyway, moving on, the creature's back is a little bit hunched and features bony spine-like outgrowths along the vertebrae, although these are still covered in skin and scales, and they don't jut out. So these creatures are extremely dangerous, aggressive and fast. And according to an article from Empire, the raptors that chase the characters to a gas station there are eventually seen running away or chased away in fear, not from the humans, but from these Mutadons, which thus reveals that these creatures are even more terrifying and deadlier than the raptors themselves. So now that we have described this creature in brief, what is it exactly? Is it a pterosaur-based creature or a dinosaur, or to be specific, a raptor-based creature? Or is it both? Now I know the people making the movie have said in the past that this Jurassic World Rebirth entry, would not have hybrids at all. And then when the first trailer dropped, they called these cloned creatures as mutants. But let's call a spade here. I can't believe that the D-Rex was a failed experiment, a failed mutant. Barely believing it, but yeah, okay, I'll just accept that. But on the other hand, this Mutadon has the build of a velociraptor, at least from the Jurassic franchise, and the wings of a pterosaur. These two creatures are on different branches in the tree of life, which means the pterosaur isn't even a dinosaur. So I'm leaning on to believing it being a hybrid. See, mutation and hybridization are two natural processes by which living things can change themselves. Well, they're offsprings. They happen in very different ways. A mutation is like a small mistake or a change in the instructions, the DNA inside a living thing. This can happen naturally, over time, or because of things like radiation or chemicals. For example, if a person is born with a different eye color than their parents, that could be because of a mutation. Or maybe the mother wasn't really honest with the husband. But in short, it's a change within one species. On the other hand, hybridization happens when two different but similar species, they mate and produce a new offspring that has traits from both, or in Jurassic World terms, the DNA of two prominent clone species are mixed and thus brings out an offspring that has traits from both parent species, or multiple parent species like the Indominus Rex. So while mutation is a small change in the code of one species, hybridization is the mixing of two species or more to create something new, and that, my friends, is what the Mutadon is. I mean, saying that it is a mutant is like putting a tuxedo on a goat, but in the end it's still a goat, if you get my drift. But if I'm gonna act as the devil's advocate here, well, I'd say that the genome of the velociraptor or the pterosaur base is quite vast, and by experimenting or activating certain DNA sequences, strange mutations might occur and thus bring out the features seen in these strange creatures. Like a velociraptor might have wings due to changing some DNA codons, or maybe the pterosaur having a face of a velociraptor. Which, yeah, while this is a long shot at an explanation, it still isn't out of the realms of possibility. But I doubt the powers that be behind the making of the film would go out of their way to justify such a thing. Therefore, in the end, I'm leaning on the Mutadons being hybrids. And with that, we end this video on the new Mutadon creatures. Do hit the like button for support. Also, do check out this other video in the end screens. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care, fam.